As we talked about yesterday, there was a ceasefire on energy facilities, etc., that would last 30 days and basically wouldn't continue ruining all the infrastructure in Ukraine, because apparently it's about 80% of the energy infrastructure has been totally wiped out. A tactic that people use in war to basically an attrition to the other side. So there's a lot of stuff going on right now. There's drone strikes, etc. But after the call that they had yesterday with Trump and Putin basically launched attacks. Apparently people died, civilians died. I don't know if they were directly on energy or not, but some people said it might be that he did that. I don't think that's true. I don't read into propaganda. I just wanted to bring this up because this obviously creates more uncertainty in the short term. People think, oh, a ceasefire, they hear good news, and then this happens, and then like, I don't know what to do. Good thing is the market's almost priced this in, because even with Russia and this attack happening and the FOMC saying basically we're not cutting any rates, but something to keep in mind is here, beginning April, the committee will slow the pace of decline of its security holdings by reducing the monthly redemption cap on treasury securities from 25 billion to 5 billion. So this is kind of a step towards ending QT, and QT basically is something that's counteractive. So yesterday, FOMC pretty much came out what we all thought, no rate cuts, but there was a positive side, and we have quantitative tightening now, which is not very good for the economy in terms of seeing our markets pump. So getting rid of QT and then introducing QE, which is printing money again, then we could see really rate cuts and things are starting to get in place. So what I'm trying to say here is going from 25 billion to 5 billion means that there's less and less quantitative tightening. Soon, in my opinion, by May, right before summer, like I'm talking about what you're not expecting, by summer, that could play out, and then they could get rid of it completely and then start printing, because if we go back to trueflation, all right, so we go to trueflation, and what this is showing us is the actual inflation index. It's much more accurate. It changes daily, and it shows what is the actual inflation rate. Now, when we do the traditional way, it's basically been proven to be 45 to 60 days off. And so what they're seeing right now might look like 2.3%, 2.4%. It might even be as high as 2.7% of the US inflation that we actually have, and it's basically back. So that's why you're seeing that inflation's still above 2%, etc. But Trueflation gives us more accurate data, and it's showing that it's under 2%, which would lead into us going into May being under 2%, and instantly those printers go burr, right? So Powell turns the printers on, then we get rid of quantitative tightening, then we have more M2 money supply, which is already increasing worldwide anyways, and then all this extra capital is in the markets, interest rates go down so people can borrow money, and by summer, we get this whole new energy coming into this space, not just for crypto, but also for stocks. So we're gonna see abundance potentially. And then alongside that, what I said yesterday, with egg prices going down, oil prices and gas prices going down, basically making it affordable to live again in the United States, and a potential dodge paycheck to certain taxpayers that are in the lower brackets, probably as the focus, would give more liquidity to people that are retail to spend it. And in general, what we saw with COVID is that ends up going into markets. It ends up going, unfortunately, into casinos. A lot of it goes into the markets because now it's cheaper for them to live and they have extra cash. So what should they do with it? If the markets are very good and pumping, they're gonna go along with the pump. We haven't had that this cycle. We haven't had euphoria. We've pretty much gone up and a little bit sideways, up and a little bit sideways, but really haven't had like that euphoria and that excitement and retail talking about how rich they are and the cab drivers talking about how much money they're making. We didn't even have that part of the cycle, so we didn't get that. And so when we look at these factors, there's a lot of things stepping up to be potentially a very positive move in the markets. And not only that, the most important part here right now is that Trump is apparently today going to have a huge message. And apparently, I don't know this because it's not confirmed and I'm not in his administration, but apparently there will be 0% taxes on crypto gains, maybe for a certain amount of time so that they can bring a lot back, and eventually they'll add some taxes later, which is what I assume. But in the meantime, all this changes the game massively. People are paying huge amounts of money in taxes on their crypto gains currently in the United States, and people try to avoid them. If you made the crypto tax 0 on capital gains, you instantly bring a huge huge amount of people, even who are in stocks, into crypto, and you'll start to see certain stocks be connected to crypto, and you'll start seeing a lot of growth potential. That's where we're likely going. So when we're talking about summer being potentially something that many people won't expect it to be, it could be then. It also could take till after summer and we see the normal end of year push, which usually happens. It just feels like we've been in such a negative downward spiral for so long, and everyone's so bearish and everyone's so like turned off. People I know have like basically turned off their whole entire thing, and like they're going to find a new job or going to start a new business because they're like, oh, crypto's dead. This kind of mentality I've been through before, not in this time of the cycle, but I've been through this before. And when you've gone through that, you kind of start realizing that, oh, what did I feel like when this happened the last few times? And it's like very similar feeling. It's very similar conversations, very similar amounts of Telegram and Discords and everything just dead. No one's around. So usually when all that happens is when things turn around and get better. So keep your eyes on that. Now, just a couple more things. Hyperliquid, right? Now, these massive shorts and longs that happened, Zach XBT is calling and saying that, it's money laundering. I thought very similar things as well. Now, what is really important about this is apparently, according to this article, I'm not going to read it for you, but apparently, according to this specific article, Hyperliquid, when those positions are open, whether they close in a profit or a loss, they actually have a huge risk on their side. Now, what that means is that it's obviously not always a good situation for Hyperliquid, even if they have a lot of money. And then when we look at here, all of a sudden today, after releasing this article and talking about how it could be very much of a very large risk for Hyperliquid, they start creating their staking tiers. Now that may or may not be directly linked, but it's something to kind of think about. Live on April 30th, they're basically going to, they're saying even with staking discounts, they're going to be cheaper than CEXs without even staking. If you stake, you'll get even better fees. And then protocol revenue is going to increase because of this, probably because their base underlying fees are still cheaper than CEXs and DEXs, but they're more expensive all of a sudden, right? To give them more capital, probably to reduce the risk. And then obviously, if you have your hype staked and you have a benefit by staking your hype, then less crazy fluctuations would happen in the price every time huge positions are open. So I'm not 100% confirmed that just this article was right. It's just something that I've been thinking about, and this pops up and we look at it and we go, okay, this may or may not be something real here. But what it sounds like is they realize they had some type of misalignment, I guess, if people can do this. And so they're trying to align it a little bit better so that they're not the place where everyone's kind of money laundering, which is possible. Not saying it is 100% or it's been confirmed, but these are possibilities. And then now looking over to XAPO Bank. Now, I'm going to show you this. I'm going to tell you why it's good and why it's really bad. So Bitcoin backed loans, getting cash. So basically saying, if you have Bitcoin and you need a loan, you need money, you don't want to sell your Bitcoin, right? You could take a loan of this and it could be between 20% collateralization or 40%. Now there is a negative side to doing this. You can only do $1 million, but let's say you want to do 10 Bitcoin. If you have 10 Bitcoin, you can get a $171,000 loan. That sounds great, right? But here's the sad side is it's a 10.26% a year annualized. Basically, you're paying 10% to take that loan. So if you're not making 10.5%, 10.27%, you're going to lose money on taking that loan. And this is a huge percentage, right? If you take a loan from a bank, they don't charge you 10%. This is half as much as a credit card. So this doesn't work for probably most people. And if you do it for a short amount of time, even still, it could be like a short loan if you needed like a bridge. This could be great for people who need a bridge loan, who are happy to pay a little bit of money for a short amount of time. But if you're trying to take a long-term loan, terrible idea. And anytime you see 10%, it's a large amount of capital that you would be taking a risk on. And obviously Bitcoin price fluctuations, etc. And then if you go to 40%, you pay even more fees. So from how I look at it, it's not really an ideal. But what this does set a precedent of is if you hold Bitcoin and you want to get a mortgage, this could be something that also gets introduced in the future. This is showing us the future of, especially this because this is a bank. This is basically saying that you can now collateralize your Bitcoin without having to sell it. And that gives you a huge window to look at in terms of what you can do with your Bitcoin and not even having to sell it, which is really the thing that no one wants to do unless we're at the top of the cycle. And even then, most people that are OGs are not going to sell all their Bitcoin. So those are very positives. Now, jumping into the charts, what happened yesterday? Well, I've been talking about this a couple of the other videos, how the KIJUN, when it's flat, it basically acts like a magnet, right? So think of this magnet right here I'm going to place. Okay, so let's look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin, Ethereum, and a lot of the market has this exact same chart. And I've talked about this on multiple videos, how we get far away from this red line, which is called the KIJUN, or KIJUN, depending on how you like to say it. I call it the KIJUN, some people call it the KIJUN. But the point here, and the most important point, is whenever we get extremely far away from the KIJUN, it will generally, it doesn't always, it can kind of sideways and up, but it will eventually come back and meet that KIJUN, right? And when it's really, really flat, it pulls it down like a magnet and pulls it up like a magnet, whether we're above or we're below. Right now with this flat KIJUN, and it coincides with like this level right here. So it wouldn't surprise me in the least for us to see us pull up to the KIJUN closer. It may come down and meet us somewhere halfway in the middle, but it's likely that that will meet its level. And what that basically means, it's an equilibrium when buyers and sellers are kind of meeting each other in the middle. When it gets really far away, there's too many people selling. It's like looking at RSI, it's like oversold. And when it gets too far above, that's where we have overbought, because too many people are buying it and it's gone too far away from equilibrium and it pulls it back down. So that acts like a magnet. Now, if you take what I just said on Bitcoin, thinking, okay, this could pull it as a magnet, what does it look like on a shorter time frame? Let's go to our secondary chart. And what I'll show you is quite interesting. Chiku span is bullish. TK cross is bullish. We're in the cloud. We broke the top of the cloud, which means we did an edge-to-edge trade. And now we're kind of coming down a little bit off of this trend line that we've had here for quite some time, basically. But we're going to go back to the 25th. And this trend line specifically, it ran into and then it rejected. That doesn't mean it will continue to reject. It could look like this. It could look like that. But what I'm seeing now is with this 200 EMA on the 4-hour, we would have to kind of get above that and break out of here and then break out, we'd go towards our next level, which is this downtrend, which we've had pretty much since the top of the market. So I'm looking at on the 4-hour, looks a little bit better. Does this mean that I will become bullish? Not really, but we're starting to see signs of things maybe improving, but it's still in the air. So looking at that, let's go to Ethereum. Now, Ethereum had a nice breakout yesterday, and the video I just did yesterday and the day before, I was talking about this exact same thing, how when we get far away from the KIJUN, it pulls it up. And as you can see, I was talking about it at the $1,900 level, and then I said this, and a day later, we had like this huge pump. We're still likely going to go towards this level, this golden level at 2,400. That's where I could see us going first, because the KIJUN could come down a little bit, and we could meet there and see where we have a reaction from. When we look at the 4-hour on our secondary chart for ETH, we have very similar looking charts. We have TK cross that happened, the Chiku span is bullish, we're inside of the cloud. Generally, the trade would be to the top of the cloud right around here, 2150. So that's what we would look at. And then this 200 EMA, it'll depend, maybe it will come down to that level. And if we break above and retest, we can go up to 24 and higher. So that's what it's looking like on these two primary charts, being the daily, secondary chart being our lower time frame chart. So what does the whole market cap look like? Well, it's still basically in this downtrend, as we can see. So we really need to break out of that for the total market cap, total 2 market cap, and for total 3 market cap. We're all in like that same status. And again, look at how far it came away from the KIJUN just as a total market cap without Bitcoin and Ethereum, how fast it went back to that equilibrium level. That's what the market does. You also see it over here. We got really, really far away and it pulled it right back, bounced, and we went higher until things kind of got a little bit more finicky and we started looking more bearish. So that's where we are on the total market cap on Bitcoin and Ethereum. Now we could look at other charts like Solana, etc., but they all look very similar. So there's no point in wasting all your time to go through the same thing and repeat myself over and over again until I find a certain chart that actually gives you guys opportunity. Right now, it's all about sitting patiently. So what do I do right now? Could I go long on Bitcoin? I could. Do I think it's a good idea right now if I don't want to watch a chart very, very like a hawk? Probably not. What am I doing? Well, you guys already know I have my own trading system. And as you can see, we're now up 2.58% on the month, and we're on day number 16. It's a beautiful thing when I can not be 100% sure and trust the trading system that I have to trade USDT, spot trading for me, where I can kind of sit back, look at the markets, still make money, and not have to stress about anything because I'm just watching the markets as they are and where they're going, and I can be more certain myself what's going to happen next. When we go over to my Bitcoin accumulator, that's the whole point of what it's called, a Bitcoin accumulator. It does smaller trades, sometimes gets into bigger ones if we have big drop-offs, which is actually the exciting part. So, usually you're scared when you see a big 15K or 10K move over a couple of days. That actually excites me because these bots get positioned to take a huge profit when those types of things happen. And so 16 days up 1.54% if we round up. That's beautiful. That's almost 3% for the month currently that we would be running on that rate. That's great. It does 2.5% over 3 years. If we're beating that 1 month and we're beating it higher, we're going a little bit lower, that's okay. But averaging 2.5% is beautiful, especially when no one's really sure or no one's actually kind of confident in the market. So this is how I do it. Now, you're probably going, Coach, but you never let me into this bot. It's because they're institutional, because I don't want everybody in these, and because you need a higher amount of capital to start. So, not everyone has 25 to 50K to start in each strategy. So that's why, it won't really work as well with too small amount of capital. So that's why we don't really offer that to anyone other than like funds or huge whales. And we still are very, very cautious about who we let in. So that's really what it comes down to. But you do have an option to get in with one of my other systems. And I'm going to put the link below because many people have been asking me saying, please, I want to come in. And I'm like, you know what? This is a private link. So not anyone can come in, which is why I don't have it full like all the other copy traders on BLOFIN. But we have 28 people, 100K already in there. We've made profits. We're annualized right now to make about 175% for the year. And what do you have to do? You leave the capital in and it makes money quickly. And what I told you guys before is it may go through a lull of many days, like this is almost a month, 3 weeks of no trades. And then when it does a trade, you'll make 5%, 13% ROI, go from 6 to 13% in literally 1 day. So like I said, it will do the gains that my other bots do in a shorter amount of time with less trades, but then you can sit back and just leave the USDT there and you don't have to stress. So one thing I want to do is the guy who put in 50K that I just talked about in the last video, congratulations. You're definitely up now about 5-6% on your account. If we get 5 of those trades a month that go 5%, you're going to be even happier. And the great part is the barrier of entry is $1,000. So you don't have to be super wealthy to get into this. So if it's interesting to you, we're going to leave the link down below because it is a copy trading and it is a public thing that's privatized right now. But we want to let my community have a chance to come in. And again, this is a slow strategy where if you're not going to use that USDT, this just sits there. And then when you make gains, you make your money and you're super happy and you continue going on. So that's where we're at right now with this. All right, guys, so if you want to learn more about bots, we do have a community. You guys can join in. You can talk about the bots and how they're doing. You'll have someone to talk to. We have a form below that you can fill out so you can join in our community and, try to fill it out as best you can. And we want you in there and we want you guys to be winning too. Also, make sure you're following this channel. You're following me on X. We're posting daily updates of these things so that you can see they work. And yeah, we would love you guys to be a part of our community. It's something that gives you more access to me. It will give you more understanding of the trading strategies that I use, the bots that I use, and we do have a free trading course so that you can learn how I trade and why I'm successful and how to think about it. So all of that's there for you. You literally just have to go and do this. So go do it right now, fill in the form, join our community, and find out what you want to know about crypto. Get a free course. Let's help you win. That's the goal here, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.